Welcome to the Umana Yana podcast. I'm your host, Josh Drypal, and we are back with season 2, and this is episode 2. Now, I want to thank my guest, Nalini, for joining me today. Nalini and I go back a few years now. I think we really met on the scene of being in service to our community and, showing up in different spaces, offering, our gifts to the world, and really just trying to connect deeper, not only for their sake, but for our sake. So,
Yeah.
Nalini, before we jump in today's conversation, I want to turn it over to you to introduce yourself, how you see fit and most aligned with today.
Oh my. I wear many different hats, but I like to call myself a student of life because, we can read stuff, we can research, we can dive in as much as we want, but unless we live it, we don't really understand it. And then we can't share it. And just to correct you, we met through Two Times Removed, book two.
Oh, there you go. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that was what, 4 years ago now? Is that four?
Wow. Time flies. That
Yeah.
was number 2 in the anthology. Yeah, that sounds probably about right. And
Yeah.
I was thinking back to the Don't Hold Me Back event. That's what I thought. That in my brain was clicking as maybe the starting point.
That was somewhere. That was somewhere in between
Yeah.
it. I think so. Yeah, the ICA one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So that's actually a little bit of my disclaimer as well. I am a student of life. So anything I say here is really just based on my experience. And I hope to generate dialogue within the community.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I
Mhm.
appreciate it. And, today I think is a conversation that, I think behind the scenes, often we might have this type of conversation, maybe with one person we really trust, for example.
Mhm.
The topic today is forgiveness. And I know that's a big one. No matter how we break it down, it's kind of like one of those onions. It's like, we look at it from a male-female perspective. Then we can break it down to like, whether we're a child or a parent or a spouse,
Mhm.
then it's like the cultural impact. So I think there's so many interesting layers that can really make for a great conversation. And I think
Mhm.
that, I think our people, our community especially, I think we have challenges when it comes to championing those situations where maybe forgiveness is actually the way forward.
Mhm.
But, maybe there's some other options that feel a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So, I thank you for that disclaimer. And, by no means are we saying that what we're sharing here is like the absolute and only truth.
Yeah.
We're really just trying to
Mhm.
draw on what our experiences are and bring it to the table and learn about each other
Yeah.
and ourselves. I think that's truly what's going to happen here today. So, why don't we just jump on in? And our first thing that we want to really open it up with is like forgiveness. And I want to flip it over to you. Why do you think we struggle with it so much?
Oh, if you grew up in a Caribbean household, that is not a thing. Apologies don't exist. And if by divine intervention it does happen, it's very vague and it's simply boiled down to I'm sorry, which is a great start, but it doesn't leave room for addressing what the issue was originally, and it also doesn't open up space to change behavior going forward. And so I think that's also why we struggle with
Mm,
it. The fact that there's such a shroud of secrecy within our community. There's a
right.
lot of sibling rivalry, there's a lot of resentment, and when you do speak up, you're labeled as difficult or disrespectful, and that creates a shame and internalizing, and that's what happens in our adulthood.
Mm,
We struggle to accept apologies and apologize when we wrongfully hurt someone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I resonate with that. And, I think that with us both, having lived in Canada too, I think about the Canadian culture and way of it
Mhm.
all, right? And I
Yeah.
laugh with some friends, they say like Canadians are so polite and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, we're kind of the type who, you might step on my new shoe and I'll apologize
I'll
to you for
apologize for
having
you.
been in your way,
Yeah.
like, so it's almost like this idea that like, can we actually accept that forgiveness, like you said, right? And
Mhm.
I find that a real common reflex that we have as a community generally is that it's like, let's sweep it under the rug. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, guys, I mean, it's almost ironic because we obsess over such a clean home, right? But then on the flip side, our go-to
Mhm.
reflex when it comes to
Yes.
situations is let's pretend it doesn't exist, even though it's taking
Exactly.
all this
Yeah.
space in this room,
Yeah.
and I also find that part of what's happening here is that like our generation, we're more open and receptive to actually exploring these things with ourselves and like trying to then embody it and pass it down. But we might come up with that resistance of maybe the generations that came before us where they didn't have what I now realize is actually a privilege of sitting with what am I feeling, right? They kind of
Yeah.
had to go, you know, for a
Mhm,
variety of different historical reasons.
mhm.
And they didn't get to sit with that. So when we meet them with this, well, you know, I want to talk about this. This has been bothering me. It's like, what do you mean? I didn't have time to sit with my feelings, you
Yep.
know?
You had to work.
And
You had to, yep,
yeah, you
continue
know, so I
life.
see
Yeah.
some of that.
Mhm,
And like I almost find like with the younger people, they kind of, you know, they'll do the attempts, you know, to really try and bridge that gap between learning and understanding between the generations. But at a certain point, they're more often than not, I find, going to choose themselves. And I know I've done this personally as well. It's like, guys, you got to also be receptive to this. And if you're not, I mean, I only have a finite amount of time. So I guess I'm just going to have to take this and run with it for who comes after you then,
yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
have you found that as well for yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've played the peacekeeper. I've played the one who takes the impact, really,
Mm.
on things. And so we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, just you know, as we move on from that little bit of an intro, like you know, I want to share with you very openly that I think that for the first at least quarter of my life, you know, like first 25 years, say, um, you know, I think I really was misguided, and I
Mhm,
didn't really connect with the idea that forgiveness actually does something for me too.
mhm,
You know, I think that in these situations when it comes to forgiveness, sometimes we might not feel heard or accepted, or like the people on the other side have time for this idea of we need to work through forgiveness. So,
mhm,
you know, I think that what I did is like the only element of control I feel I have in this situation, then, since I've kind of given or you've taken my power away, however we want to look at it, is I'm going to hold on to this and I'm not going to let it go. You know, and I don't think that I realized how much damage that was doing to me mentally, how it was maybe
mhm,
impacting my sleep, my irritability levels in all
mhm.
situations because I was just biting my tongue, right?
Yeah.
And you
I
know,
use
I want to open it up to
silence.
you
I use
and
silence
ask
as
you
a
how that
punishment.
did. Yeah.
And I used to think that protecting my peace meant removing myself completely. Um, Whereas I didn't want to sit with it. And
Mhm.
that just, it doesn't help the situation
Right.
at all. Hmm. And dissociating.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you know, it's like like we keep doing it and then we keep, you know, hanging around with the people
Mhm.
or the family, whatever it is that who've done this
Yeah.
thing that they won't, you know, directly address with us and
Mhm.
whatnot. And it keeps bubbling within us. It's like I actually look around the room sometimes in family settings and it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I know you guys are beefing, I know you guys are beefing, but are you gonna say it here in person? But then I
Yeah.
also look at it like in the absence of your words, even if I just try to connect with the energy of
Oh,
you
yeah.
two being in
The
this
air is
room,
very thick. Yeah.
you know? So it's like, well,
Yeah.
guys, like what kind of example are we really setting for the
Hmm.
younger ones of us who are looking at this dynamic? You know,
Yeah.
we're not actually leading
We're
them
not.
to this place of understanding you have a role in this,
Mhm.
you know, in terms of, you know, actually addressing these things and working toward forgiveness and repair. You know, I think that
Mhm.
that's definitely been something that we are picking up the ball because we maybe
Mhm.
feel like it hasn't been addressed or perhaps dropped before,
Mhm.
you know?
Shame is a big one.
Yeah.
The shame of speaking up. The shame of also, if you let something go the first time, you create a pattern. And so you
Mm,
don't want to open up that door as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, shame is such a big one because like I
Mhm.
feel like it's we also experience that shame in so many different ways because
Mhm.
you know, I've found in the because of the lack of open communication, what I would
Mhm.
often do is I'd like try to almost assess a room and be like, okay, if I'm in this room, what does everyone need from me?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's like I like then it's like I just adapt and like I guess what do we call it like a chameleon essentially, right?
Mhm.
Like I shapeshift
Yeah.
based on what the room seemingly needs, right? And then like we don't get to this place of like actually okay, clear communication, let's understand what you need, let's work through this, let's move
Mhm.
on, right? It's more let's just look the other way and pretend it didn't happen or doesn't exist, you know.
It's an
Yeah.
unfortunate part. It is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. So, you know, something that I also used to do in reflecting around, you know, preparing for this conversation around forgiveness is I realized that also because of that lack of communication and maybe the shame that prevented some of these stories from being told, I would I would carry the torch, if you will,
Hmm.
for some things, some hurts that people that were near and dear to me experienced, but perhaps never got resolution to.
Yeah.
And like I made that such a big part of my own identity that it's like I didn't even take the time to personally get to know the person that they apparently have the discord with. I
Yeah.
just accepted their experience of that
Right.
person as my own.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to open that up to you. Like, how have you experienced that yourself? And like, what was kind of the impact of that and the snowball that essentially would happen after that point?
I would dissociate. That was the best thing. I was taught to, it's not your circus, not your monkey, it's not your
Mm,
business, stay away. And the, that creates so much problems when we're older, because now so much time has passed and it's like, do you bring it up? Do you not? How do we move forward? And you're just stuck in this loop, like you said.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
You know, and something that I've seen is, especially in single parent homes where, say, there's a son and a
yeah.
mother,
Hmm.
you know, I often find that what happens, and this is a cycle that I think all of us need to work towards intentionally breaking, is
Hmm.
that, you know, that young boy, you know, he is going to in his mind it's going to be like, okay, what's my role now? Am I
Hmm.
supposed to what's masculine energy? What am I, the man of the house kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And so we absorb that because we feel that's how we protect the
Hmm.
important people. We pick up that torch,
Yeah.
right? And we make sure that you know that you wronged this person over here and
Hmm.
it bothers me, right? And then, you know, because we don't necessarily work through that in any way, we kind of just hold on to that moment and
Hmm.
carry that with us. We then don't really understand how to release that a little bit later and understand that, okay, yes, there's that protection bit, but maybe there's a bit more of an efficient, balanced way that we can show up and do that. You know, so I've noticed that kind of becomes a little bit of a pitfall for young men. You
Hmm.
know, if there's that absence of clear communication and attempts and modeling of these working towards forgiveness. Like, have you seen some of that yourself?
No, because I grew up with a family that was so tightly wound that everything was swept under the rug, nobody addressed anything. And so no, there hasn't really been that much, but I will say for myself, I only really started speaking up when my kids came around. And because
Mm,
they were young and they weren't able to articulate themselves, I would stick up for them. But for myself,
mm.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I got
And it's because it goes back to that shame and that internalizing and like, I don't want to appear difficult and challenging and stubborn was
mm,
one that I often heard if I did speak up.
got it. Yeah, so it
Mhm.
becomes a lose-lose, right? It's like
Yeah.
our,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
There's there
Yeah,
nobody wants to make the first move.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, like I'm curious on that note because I mean I've seen it play out, and a lot of people have recounted that as a very similar experience for them. You know, were you met with anybody, you know, even within your family or you know just the people that you trusted who actually were able to help you feel safe to not feel the shame associated with those things and understand that it's not you being blamed for that per se, right? Like, I'm just curious, did you have any of those kind of disruptors in those thought patterns and feelings and what along the way for you? Or is this more of a learning as you have
Mhm.
evolved into a parent and now think back to your own experiences?
I am the first one in my family to see a therapist. The first one to also work with a Reiki practitioner and
Uh-huh.
sort of Suki, of course, and to take it outside. And so there was the "Are you airing the dirty laundry?" situation. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. I'm really just trying to help myself grow because, yes, I did make mistakes and I'm mature enough to admit that. So, how do I move forward and how do I not hold on to things? Um, yeah, those are
Yeah.
the, it's really tough to sit with yourself and then it's really
Mm.
tough to sit with somebody else. But then a nice neutral contact is a good way to do it and a good way to start.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, you know, thank you for being so intentional about like, you know, putting your foot down and drawing a line in the sand for your lineage. You know, I think that's so important. And, you know, I think that the more of us I get to see or hear from people who have done that, I think the more the confidence will grow for more of us to do that. You
Yeah.
know, and you know, I think that it's just so important when we're communicating that I found at least where I've made some perhaps pitfalls in communicating why I'm going to therapy. What it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes I have come from that heat of like, I'm blaming you for this,
Yeah.
right? And it's like almost in verbalizing some of these thoughts that have been locked within. It's like you get to hear it's like, hang on, I
Mhm.
gave my power away,
Mhm.
and this is about me right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The victim mentality is real as well. I know that I've spent a lot of time wondering and saying to myself, well, how could they do this to me?
Mm,
But we need to reframe that to why did they do this for me?
yeah,
And
I
that
hear that.
the reframing has been instrumental in helping
Yeah,
me work through a lot of my issues.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think, and that's definitely one of the ways that we take our power back, right? Just
Mhm.
understanding that
Mhm.
this narrative is ours to control. It's not
Yeah.
about external
Hmm.
feedback gearing, telling us what that narrative is, right?
Yeah.
It's us. We can listen to it, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, we're the ones who are putting our stamp of approval and saying this is actually what the story is, right? And I think that that's incredibly important. And you know, as we explore this idea that forgiveness does a lot of things for us as well. I've shared this tattoo, and we've talked about it too, this one that I have, and it reads forgive for you, right? And that came to me. It's not that I saw a quote somewhere. It just kind of came to me as I was working through some of my challenges, when it comes to that
You know
masculine
what?
energy. Yeah.
Can I pause for a second? I think it stopped recording. It had
Okay.
a note on my phone.
Okay.
It looks like it's recording now, but it
Okay.
did phase you out for a second.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, on my side, everything
so
seems good.
it
Yeah, and
seemed good.
in the editing, it'll actually help us clip that out. So no
Okay,
worries about that at
okay,
all.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
so the whole idea of forgiveness being really more for me is like I started to really see the impact that I was having and like the way that my anger was like coming out towards people who were nothing but nice to me, you know? And it's like,
Mhm.
hang on, hang on, hang on. Like, how fair is this? Like, these are the people who have actually listened to me, made me feel safe, and I'm just
Mhm.
raging against them, right?
Yeah.
That's not right. They've actually provided a safe space for me to get clear about this. So I should be showing more gratitude towards that.
Mhm.
And so, the idea of forgive for you, it's kind of like, once again, a take my power back kind of moment, because
Mhm.
it's like I was holding all of this against so many of these people. But then when I step back, it's like, we could argue and the idea of the whole world is just a reflection of you back to you, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, maybe
Mhm.
I need to more gracefully accept this invitation in these irritations, right?
Yeah.
Versus be like, it's me versus somebody. No, it's just
It's
me
me versus
versus
me.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
uh so like I want to know, like, for you, like, how does that what was, I guess, your turning point, if you will, where
Mhm.
the dots connected and it's like, oh shoot, you know what, I can release that because this is for me. It's not about
Mhm.
this is the only way I can now impact you because you're not listening to me. Like, what did it for you?
If you recall, earlier in the summer, I had reached out to you when I found myself in a familiar situation,
Yeah.
and that was being discarded by the person I was romantically involved with. And it was, it seemed to be a pattern. So that was the deep dive into what was I subconsciously bringing to these unions. And I knew you weren't just going to tell me whatever I wanted to hear. And so so being able to work through it on my own and really sit with myself, it was interesting because I was romanticizing the ending, and
Mm,
I heard myself do it, and I was like, okay, but they're, whatever their reasons were, I can't come up with a narrative. I don't know, right?
yeah.
And that also kind of brings in the idea that there's so much social media out there right now where there's gurus and life coaches who are telling you that everyone's a narcissist and
Yeah.
everyone's a God. And so I was really absorbing that. And I kept asking myself, well, how could they do this to me? And it was like, okay, what am I saying? in the situation. And so I'm just going to kind of go through my notes here,
Yeah.
where somebody had told me that my empathy and my compassion is always directed at my abusers and never myself.
Ooh. Hmm.
So enter
Powerful.
forgiveness number one for me, for all the times that I've put other people ahead of myself and taken the impact of their unprocessed anger
Hmm.
and their emotions. And so I really had to apologize to me,
Wow.
To Nalini, the little Nalini too,
Yeah.
where you get into like the inner child work and stuff. But that was really hard to hear.
Hmm. Wow.
Mhm.
That's a big turning point. I thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine the exploration of that in real time and then revisiting was any kind of easy. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, we always think about it's the other person's fault, but then I thought about that I had built a reputation on being strong and independent and
Mm.
resilient. And so it was almost like I was handing them the pass to hurt me. And it's like, what are you going to do with it now? And
Yeah, I hear that.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, definitely doesn't sound, easy for us to process that type of thing, right? But,
Mhm.
I think that, the take our power backness, you embrace that, right? It's like, what is this
Mhm.
trying to show me? And, our
Yeah.
ability to catch ourselves when, the optics of the situation might appear different, but the situation
Mhm.
itself has the same framework that we might have found ourselves in time and time again.
Yeah.
And, the stitching of these different things into our identity, it's like even though that we know something might suit us better, it's just like this is what I've known. So sometimes I
Yeah.
find we almost double down and dig our heels in because like, who am I
Mhm.
without this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I realized I was choosing the same person in a different body all the time.
yeah,
And so I really had to look at what was I attracted to with these individuals. And they're very much mirrored the people from my childhood where I was like nurturing them, or I would put their needs above mine and just overextending and overloving all the time. And so bringing that back and directing it to myself
yeah.
was a big realization.
Yeah, no, that's great. And
Mhm.
something I like to do, through our conversation on these podcasts is,
Mhm.
if there is something, a practical kind of out of the box thing that, people who are watching, maybe they're really resonating with things, and
Mhm.
it's like, what's one thing I can try, perhaps,
Mhm.
at the end of this podcast that can maybe help me feel more on the path, just like these guys were. So, in forgiving yourself,
Mhm.
like, do you have something that you can share with us that you did, whether that's an exercise, maybe something you said out loud to yourself that really helped you to connect with some of that and really just tap in and feel that.
Mainly the reframing, the instead of why did they do this to me? Why did they do this for me?
Mm.
Where's the lesson in this? And then understanding, like when you're on the other side, you realize that it was a blessing.
Yeah,
Without this experience, I would keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. And as much as it hurt, it is a blessing at the
yeah,
end of the day. So the reframe, let me just take a look. The courage to sit with yourself.
powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's not for the weak. It's nice to it's nice to have a person with you if you can, like if there's someone that you trust, but writing it out also helps because you're seeing it versus just thinking it and internalizing it.
yeah.
Um, Role playing
Mm.
is oddly an interesting one as well because you want to see what was their perspective, but not letting it absorb you.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting. And to build on the role playing, that's interesting that you brought that one up because since being out here in Costa Rica, I've actually gotten to participate in and learn more about a modality that's referred to as family constellation.
No,
And have you heard of family constellations before?
no, not at all. No.
Okay, so I don't want to go into a full thing on that because I don't want to butcher anything, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, that's what it empowers us to do. It's almost to tap back into the energy of those moments and really help us to almost heighten our compassion and understanding a little bit of maybe the things we couldn't understand through words, whether because of a lack of vocabulary or perhaps the person is not even any longer with us. Right.
Mhm.
So, I've seen and personally experienced how powerful those types of experiences can be. So, I definitely second, a lot of things that you shared there that can really be helpful. So thank you for that, Nalini. I think
You're
you're
welcome.
walking the path and you're not hiding the directions that you're taking. You know what I mean? And I think that's almost one of the best things that we can do for our community and anybody that we love,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I know I'm gonna have to back this thing up and probably change directions a few times, but you know that I have my foot on the gas pedal, and let's just focus on that being progress.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that that's super special.
Yeah.
So something that really helped me to connect with the idea that forgiveness was really vital for me to thrive moving forward in my life
Mhm.
is, I powered through a lot of things. I hit the
Mhm.
gym and okay, if I can bench this, then okay, magically
Yeah.
nothing bothers me anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so, I did a lot of those things. I think we're all
Mhm.
guilty of some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
then, you kind of get to a point where you're like sitting literally in your body and it's like, okay, like I'm not old, I'm hydrated, I stretch. Why is this pain in my shoulder? Why? Like I have no logical explanation, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
remember seeing this diagram of the human body, right? And it was
Yeah.
like the front and the back. And it was like
Mhm.
all these areas circled, and it essentially linked the different body pains to
Mhm.
different things that are stored within your body. And
Yeah.
so it's
The
not
way
like
the way the way our body holds on to trauma and emotions. Hmm.
exactly, and
Yeah.
so I start to connect with that in a different way. It's like, oh, I can't just stretch my way out of it. Right? And
No.
then,
Hmm.
around that time, someone had put me onto that book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
And things just start to click a little bit more. So I'm curious for you, like, did your body, or did you realize as you started to really tackle this thing more head on in terms of this forgiveness journey of it all, did you
Hmm.
start to tap in and be like, ah, my body was trying to signal something to me all along. I just wasn't ready to receive the message from this messenger. Did that happen for you?
My body screamed at me, and I
Yeah.
didn't listen. I surged ahead with inflammation. Um, my digestive system was really sluggish because I was holding on to so much guilt and so much shame.
Mm,
My weight suffered because my body was so inflamed, but I still wanted to push at the gym. I still wanted to kickbox. I thought I was getting my aggression out by hitting the bag.
mm,
And what I was really doing was impacting my joints and hurting myself more. So I kept doing these quick fixes like massage therapy and chiro, and they are wonderful resources, but they're not long term. And
mm.
so I realized I need to fix me. And sleep. Sleep has been a big one. If you talk to any of my friends right now, they'll tell you how much I boast about my 7, 8 hour sleeps now because
Wow.
I used to, I used to, I guess one of the ways I punished myself was staying up to binge watch TV
Wow.
and, and watching these stories and thinking like, oh yeah, their life is worse than mine right now. So like, let's involve ourselves with that. And that was the worst thing I could have done. But
Wow.
learning about my breath too. I'm actually doing it right now where I hold my breath when I'm nervous or
Yeah.
my breathing and understanding that's fight or flight. So,
Mm. Those are
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And I resonate with so many of the ones that you just shared there. The breathing, I think, was the biggest realization to me, I
Hmm.
want to say maybe 5, 6 years ago. And, I don't even know how it came onto my radar. I don't think I put
Yeah.
it there. I think someone else
Mhm.
did. But then I started to realize, I'm like, okay, if I just sit, like how many times am I intentionally taking in air in a minute? And it's like,
Yeah.
I almost, as I step back, like, I'm not like scuba diving or something.
Right.
Why
Right.
am I holding this?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't making the connection. Okay, less oxygen intentionally going into my body, repair is slower, memory is going
Hmm.
to be impacted, sleep will be impacted. I wasn't like no dots were connecting. And
Right.
like the moment it starts to show up physically, like my chest is super tight, and my massage therapist, who's strong like you wouldn't believe, is like,
Yep.
I can't break up the tension that's
Mhm.
going on here. So it's
Yeah.
like, like there has to be
Mhm.
something deeper, right? And
Yeah.
I think the breath really helped me, and also what you talked about, the staying up late at night. I think our people can relate to that so much, and it actually fascinated me. And there's actually a term that escapes me at this moment, but it's essentially what it is. It's our response to delaying the start of the next day because we're basically dreading it or just not
Yep.
happy about being here, right?
Yeah.
And
And also I learned that I used to do this a lot too. I would have to fall asleep with the TV on. And that is actually a sign of loneliness
mm,
because you're simulating conversation and laughter in the background. And so you feel like you're involved and you're a part of something.
man, that's sad, and
Mhm.
I
That was
totally,
really hard to hear too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think
Hmm.
a big thing for me in terms of having helped myself to thrive more is I really try to embody and encourage others to like, let's really like almost hyper focus on receiving the
Hmm.
messages and not being so obsessed about the messenger. Because when we do the messenger thing, then it's like, oh well, my mom's was telling me that 10 years ago, but it was my mom, so I wasn't going to hear that. But then my friend says it for the first time, it's like, oh, that clicked, right? So I think like really getting out of our own way with that, and you made such a great point about the loneliness thing. I didn't connect it until you just shared that, but then I'm now thinking, okay, so when I was on the couch wanting that TV on to help me fall asleep, who were the guests that I was essentially inviting to keep me company,
Hmm.
right? And for anyone who knows me, I'm a big BoJack Horseman fan, right? Like this guy is like my spirit animal. He's on Netflix. It's
Okay.
a yeah,
Never
it's
heard
a
of him.
6 season series, and it's absolutely incredible. It's like an adult cartoon, but it's so incredibly relatable. It takes you on the entire journey of life essentially. And he's like a
Um,
famous celebrity horse, right? And like it's so
really?
interesting. Like everyone can learn so much from this. But then when I step back and I start to do my healing and stuff, and I started to connect and resonate with him in a different way, I
Mhm.
realized, okay, I was really keep every night, like I had a 24/7 channel that just played his show.
Yeah.
And I'm
Hmm.
watching it and I'm like, I'm trying to understand me.
Yeah.
I see me in you, right?
Yeah.
But I can't put this into words in an actual practice of getting myself out of this rut for myself. So I'm
Mhm.
just thinking I'm watching a show, but what I'm really doing is trying to understand myself.
Yeah.
Did you find
Yeah.
that about the guests that you were inviting through the channels you left
Yeah.
on as you fell asleep?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. They were Spanish soap operas. They were Bollywood movies. They were um, just really in-depth stories about people and their lives and um, character development. And
Mm,
it's like, well, I'm watching these people, but what am I doing to myself? Like I'm
yeah.
just watching them. Um, and I also grew up in an environment where the TV or the radio was always on. There was never silence. And
Right.
so when I have that now, it is golden. Like my
Mm,
car time, my sleep time now, like 9:30, my phone's off. Like
yeah.
I've had to be really firm about that with myself. But like I still like some noise. Like I have
Mm,
a sound machine that plays the ocean. Like you
right.
probably get the natural ocean.
I've got one like 3 feet away from me. It's on every
Oh
night.
gosh.
The white noise machine.
Yeah, so like silence, being able to sit in silence is when
Mm,
you'll really hear yourself.
yeah. And
Mhm,
I think it's important because like I do find that our people do give, like we find a way to
mhm,
have those moments where we are or can be alone,
mhm.
right? So
Yep.
the example I would often see is a stepdad who after the night's over, the food's packed away, everything's clean, everyone has gone to bed, right?
Mhm.
Now he can just be. Now, whether the moment he says, okay, from this time I can just be, and he touches the couch and he falls asleep, right? Doesn't matter. The bottom line is that's the only time that he was giving himself that permission to be just him, his own energy, right? And it's telling
Performing.
because absolutely, and it's
Mhm.
very telling like what happens to our body in that moment. You fall asleep like
Yeah.
immediately. So your
Yeah.
body's signaling, I need rest. I need time to
Mhm,
process what's actually happening, right? Not just be
mhm.
logical about it, right?
Yeah.
So, I find that we do have those moments, but we might impact it. So we might reach for a bottle, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden now it's like we're not fully present with ourselves, but technically, yeah, right?
Hmm.
Or, for example, we might go to the gym, and people would always look at me weird at the gym. They're like, guy, like you're the only person not listening, like with headphones on. Like, what's happening? Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
did you forget them at home? Do you need to borrow from me? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And for me, I literally have never been a music guy at the gym.
Hmm.
I so want to be there with myself and to
Hmm.
hear the sounds of the metal and the
The
grunts and
machines. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like I
Yep.
want to be right there. And I
Hmm.
think that there's such a big message when we actually can tap into our body and realize, okay, hang on. What
Hmm.
what are the moments where I'm tempted to be physically present, but maybe mentally absent, right? I think there's so much in there. And just
Hmm.
judging by how you responded to that, like, do you have
Hmm.
something that really resonates with you about that type of scenario?
Oh boy. Um, my kids make fun of me because I like to shower twice a day.
Okay.
And the reason why I do it is because I want to, one, wash away the day, all the energy that I've been absorbing all day. I do my best thinking in the shower. So like I really enjoy water and I enjoy hearing the water falling. And that's my time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
a
no, I
lot of
think,
people don't understand it because they're like, "Oh, you're ruining your skin and your hair." And I'm
yeah,
cleaning my mind. I'm cleaning
there
my
you
mind
go.
and I'm cleansing myself at the same time. And so it's also helped me sleep better because I'm
Yeah.
winding down at the end of the day and I can just wash things away.
Mm, I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and it comes back to like we're always returning to ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes when it's like I've actually sat with myself sometimes like, okay, I'm gonna sit with this bottle of Jameson right now, and I'm gonna watch BoJack, right?
Hmm.
And BoJack, like literally, he's mirroring like his bottle in the cartoon actually looks exactly like the bottle I'm holding, right? And I'm
Okay.
just like,
Hmm.
why why is it that I'm gonna keep drinking this thing, knowing that it's still not going to shut my
Hmm.
brain off and whatever? So it becomes this cycle almost of like, okay, I guess I need to harm myself in some way. Like, is that how I feel
Hmm.
alive? Or, like I just proved to myself that I matter and I still have feelings? Like what's happening to me like as I'm doing this? Because I know that
Hmm.
detaching myself from my thoughts and my physical body in this moment, that's just
Hmm.
creating more work for me tomorrow. Because now I'm gonna have a hangover. Now I'm gonna feel guilty and go to the gym probably for an extra hour just to work that off.
Just
And
yeah.
then I'm going to stay up late tomorrow night because now I had less time to do what I needed to do. Like it
Hmm.
keeps
Yeah.
snowballing. And
You're avoiding yourself is what you're
yeah,
doing. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
and something interesting that I think for the first time it came out of my mouth was actually in response to a conversation I was having with my mom. And I think she was
Hmm.
asking my opinion about something. And this was at least a decade ago, I'm sure. But, it just came out of me that it's like you can't outrun yourself no matter
Hmm.
what you do, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, you know, you're whether you knock out tonight,
Hmm.
whether it's off of drugs or alcohol, whatever, like you're still
Hmm.
waking up to you tomorrow, right? And for as much as when life as we understand it, when it ends, who's to say that you don't just start off at that same end point to be
Hmm.
like, oh hey, you didn't learn the lesson, so here we go again. We're at
Here
the
we
we're at
go
the new starting
again,
point.
right? Right. Yeah. And until you absolutely disgust yourself, you're not going to know.
Yeah,
Want to, you're not going to be motivated to move
yeah,
forward. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel that because like it actually like for alcohol and me, like it's been about 2.5 years since
Yeah.
I've been totally done with alcohol. But I almost
Hmm.
had to do that. It's like, all right, well, Josh, like you gotta make a memorable moment right now so you never return to it. So it's like, okay, I'm a load up the cart and get a few of these big bottles. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it all at the same
Mhm.
time so I don't forget this night where I said, I'm done with it. And so it's
It's society pressure too, right? Like if you were
yeah,
to, you know, go to a celebration and somebody offers you a drink and you're like, actually, I don't drink, they kind of shame you for it. It's like,
yep.
it's
And
it's it's awkward. It's like, well, you don't want to go into an entire explanation of why, you
Yeah,
don't do things. But you almost do want to say it because maybe that person is also drowning themselves the way
for
you
sure.
were. And yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
super connected with that in the corporate world because,
Mhm.
having
Yeah.
been like, in the insurance industry and investments and whatever, that's very much a network heavy,
Mhm.
reward you with prestigious bottles type of industry, right?
Yeah.
And so like I found myself when I made this commitment to being done with alcohol, I'm like, okay, Josh, part of this is you understand and you accept the fact that you will likely be laughed out of certain rooms. You
Hmm.
have to be ready for that. As much as
Yeah.
you might get some pats on the back, you're probably going to
Mhm.
get laughed out of the room sometimes. So I had to
Yeah.
make that understanding with myself. And I had to sign on the dotted line saying,
Mhm.
I'm okay with this. And
Yeah.
so I still found that when I was going to, say, corporate Christmas parties and stuff like that, I found myself committed to what I said I was going to do, but anxious at the same time. Thinking like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, are they going to have like a mocktail kind of menu I can choose from? Are they going to
Yeah.
have maybe some
Is there
alcohol-free
something
beers?
available for me? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so it became really interesting because people start to look at me and like oftentimes, it might not be clear through our episodes and stuff, but
Mhm.
people notice my presence in terms of like my height and muscles and
Mhm.
tattoos and this and that. So,
Mhm.
there's this assumption as we all make assumptions around what
Yep.
the optics suggest, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm asking, hey, can I trade you like the coordinates, can I trade you my alcohol chip for can I get like an alcohol free drink?
Yeah.
Right? And like I was met with such interesting responses. Like they would actually be like, all right, you got to go talk to the bartender. So I talked to the bartender and they're like, okay, the company paid for alcoholic drinks. So if you want this alcohol free one, you actually have to pay for it. I'm like, hang on. I'm sorry. I'm saving you money at
Saving
this
you
point,
money. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm making a choice that's better for me. So you're
Hmm.
telling me I need to pay for it, right? So it kind of spun me into that whole like, the
Hmm.
conversations we have with ourselves, like, oh my God, to eat healthier, if I'm imagining organic is healthier for me, you're telling me I need to pay more just to try and stay alive. Like, how does this make
So yeah.
sense, right? And
Yep.
so, I found interesting conversations also among people who ranked higher than me. And they're like, what are you
Hmm.
drinking there? Right.
Hmm.
And it served as this moment where I could have lied and been like,
Hmm.
"Oh, no, I got vodka in here." They can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But I actually chose to embrace the spirit of no, this is
Mhm.
actually what it is. Oh,
Yeah.
and what that did is that invited in a conversation around, oh, why? How come you're going that path, right?
Hmm.
And it allowed me to show up in that space and actually create ripples within that space, right? But it was
Hmm.
also great because it gave me a chance to be like all the different things that we often obsess over, like, oh shoot, is that going to look bad on me if I want to go for promotion now? Like I didn't play ball with the boys, like,
Yeah. Am I
like
am I being inconvenient? It's
absolutely. Right?
yeah.
I don't want to
Yep.
be difficult because I was already
Yeah.
difficult for so many reasons. And here
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it out loud because we're two brown people talking. I also didn't want to use all of the leeway that I had because I probably fell under that DEI
Yeah.
percentage. Just like, oh shoot, how much is this
Yeah.
guy gonna really ruffle feathers? He should just be
Yeah.
grateful to be here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Just blend into the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I found that highly, highly interesting. But it
Hmm.
really gave me a chance to see, okay, like, are you really firm in understanding the impact this has, not only on your community, but let's start with you. And
Hmm.
so, I had some really interesting moments, as you know, like we were traveling for the last like year and a bit.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I actually laughed in these spaces because I'm like, look at you, Josh, right? You're
Hmm.
now at these places where you paid like an all-inclusive fee or whatever. And
Hmm.
now I would have access to the top shelf
Unlimited.
alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this guy is going over to the bartender and they're looking at me weird because all I'm ordering is a fresh coconut.
Yeah.
And they're like, and? I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no end.
Would you like some rum with that coconut? Yeah.
Exactly. So it
Yeah.
presents us with such interesting opportunities when we look at what
Mhm.
messages are actually coming through and the different ways that these messengers can be presented.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be a physical body. It could be literally this bottle. What is the
Mhm.
message? Like, and we talk about
Yeah.
messages in a bottle. Like, how ironic, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
moving, forward with what we've been chatting about here, I want to know from you. I think that's something some of us might struggle with is offering forgiveness, to situations or perhaps people who are no longer with us in the physical body, right? Have you had to navigate that? And if so, how have you managed to do that? What's worked for you? Maybe what's still kind of learning?
I haven't lost anyone particularly close to me, but if I had to say, I have my regret is with my grandparents. I don't have any of them, any of the four.
Mm.
Um, and so there's a lot of history lost now. And I'm really interested in exploring my roots now. And I'm traveling to Guyana next year. So I
Amazing.
want to, yeah, I'm so excited. It's been about 30 years.
Ooh.
so, so this trip is really about me understanding what their life was like before. So going to the village, seeing their house, seeing how they struggled. Um, but I'm going to physically see it, but I'm not going to hear about it. And so I really regret not having that relationship with them. And that is because no one wanted to forgive each other. And
Oh,
how ironic is that?
mm,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I do know a lot of the secrets in the family,
Yeah.
but they're not mine to tell. And so I really just want to learn them for myself, not to
Mm,
necessarily share with other people, but to understand their frame of mind and how that impacted the generations before me and how I'm going to change it for the ones after me.
mm. I love that.
Mhm.
And I resonate with something you said there. I wasn't planning on going in this direction, but you presented an opportunity, and I want to ask you about that, right?
Mhm.
I've sat with it, especially this year, and I've thought
Mhm.
about, I've been in these conversations with different people, say within a family, even a friend circles, whatever, and it's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. We can't say nothing, right?
Yeah.
Don't tell so
Yeah.
and so that I told you, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I never thought about the impact that that has on the person that we ask to keep the secret, right? And so I want to
Mhm.
open it up to you. Like, the mic is yours. Like, where do you want to go with that? Because I know where I want to go with that, but I want to turn it over to you.
I mean, I'm working on a book as well, sort of like,
Congrats.
thank you. It's about just it's going to be short stories about my experiences and relationships and what I've learned. And it's going to be entitled Do Ya Ting
Ah,
because because that is something that I say to people when either they wronged me or I just don't understand. Okay, do your thing because you don't know. You don't know what people are thinking in that moment. And so to understand where my grandparents came from or whatever these secrets are, these secret holders are, I want to understand what they were thinking and
mm,
I want to understand like why they chose me to
mm,
share that with. And if it was because they thought I wouldn't leak their information, or is it because they wanted my advice? Did they want insight? Like, I want to know the meaning behind things.
gotcha.
And I want to know why people do things the way that they do. Like,
Yeah,
behavior is really interesting to me.
yeah. No, I
Mhm.
think that's wonderful. And, I look forward to supporting you and reading those short stories because I think
Thank
there's going to be
you.
a lot of healing that's going to be possible through
Yeah.
you bringing this work to the world. So thank you.
Mhm.
I'm super excited. And for everyone who is listening to our episode, at the end of our episode, Lean's going to let you know how you can connect with her and support all the things she's working on. So please do
Mhm.
hit that follow button and interact. Like I think we really try to foster these spaces that are collaborative. It's not like
Mhm.
I'm the leader and
Right.
all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really
Mhm.
how do we hold space for one another, right? And
Mhm.
hold space better for ourselves too. So I just wanted to touch on, my experience a little bit with the
Mhm.
whole like secret keeper thing. I
Mhm.
think something that often gets lost on people who have asked me to do that and continue to ask me to do that is this
Mhm.
idea that I then have to go into these spaces where you may not have to be, and I have
Mhm.
to hold this,
Yeah.
right? And I have to make a
Mhm.
mental note of what I can and can't say. So I'm now obsessing and changing my behavior in these
Mhm.
scenarios that I did not ask to be a part of. And now this is going
Yeah.
to interact, this is going to impact my opinion and all of these things, how I move forward with these people.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm almost at that point where
Mhm.
I need to actually be very firm when people are kind of expressing that sentiment. I'm going to tell you something, but
Mhm.
don't tell so and so that I told you. It's like, no,
Yeah.
if we're going to operate with those
Mhm.
type of agreements, we're not going to operate at all in this scenario.
Mm. Oh,
There's
that's good.
clearly some sense
Mhm.
of guilt on your
Yeah.
part if you're asking me to not communicate
To not.
anything about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's nip it in the bud
Mhm.
and let's break another
Mhm.
cycle as we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Because That's stuff that contributes to other things that we're talking about, like staying
Mhm,
up late at night, not being able to sleep,
mhm,
discomfort within the body, all of these things, right? Secrets.
mhm,
If you actually do a deep dive into what secrets and being tight-lipped does when we do not express ourselves in
mhm,
some way, shape, or form, it will be
mhm,
so mind-blowing if you give
mhm.
yourself a chance to actually receive the messages that can come through to you if you
Yeah.
actually do that deep dive. So I would say
Mhm,
if there's a rabbit hole that anyone has time to jump down, think
mhm.
about that one, exploring how secrets actually do show up in your body.
Yeah. One of the things that I actually started asking now when people come to me for advice or just in general is, are you looking for advice or do you just want someone to listen?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because sometimes people just want someone to speak to. Um, and sometimes they're obviously coming to you for a reason and you need
mm,
to find out what that reason is.
yeah,
And sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. Actually, a lot of the times people don't want to hear the truth.
yeah.
Let's be real. So
Sure.
yeah, like just putting that out there now and saying, what is it that you're looking to from me?
Yeah. You know what? And I
Mhm,
love that you shared that. That's actually like
mhm.
I feel like our toolkits, we have
Yeah,
so much crossover in our toolkits. And
yeah,
I found that that one actually came to me out of frustration almost,
yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest, because like it's like,
yeah.
oh, you know what to do, so just sit here. I was like, no, like perhaps
Mhm,
you don't know what you want or need in this scenario, and I need to
mhm.
give you a sense of personal responsibility to
Yeah,
communicate that, right?
yeah.
So it's such an interesting learning opportunity when we
Mhm,
ask people, "What do you need me to do?" Right?
yeah, yeah.
Like you said, because
Mhm,
even that might be the first time they're even confronting that within themselves. Of like,
mhm.
I don't actually know what I need in the moment, right?
Yeah,
And that in itself helps them to understand, oh, that's why I've been stuck in this loop of frustration because I'm
yeah.
not even sure what I want out of this, right?
Yeah,
So,
and it really began when a friend of mine was going through something, and it was the same story being
mm,
repeated over and over again, and I was like, "Do you want me to say something? Because I can,
yeah,
or do you just wanna keep this cycle going? Because you're obviously chasing your tail at this point, and something's gotta give, and
yeah,
if I can't help you, then it's going to be someone else, but then that again, that cycle will just continue.
for sure.
Yeah. so
Yeah. No,
so
that's
being
amazing.
clear up front is money.
Yeah. And what a
Mhm,
practice to encourage, right? Like the more
mhm.
we do that, the more we're actually likely to get what we want. The more they do
Yeah.
that, same thing, right?
Mhm,
So I think us, presenting these opportunities to other people to take their power back, but also to take
mhm.
our power back ourselves, much like you
Yeah,
did, and like, well, I'm
yeah,
not going to waste my time and spin with you. What do you want?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
one of
Yeah.
the best things we can actually do, embody, and
Mhm,
model for anybody, right? But
mhm,
especially ourselves, because it shows that we're respecting ourselves and our own time and lived
mhm,
experience, right? So
mhm,
it sounds like you've been very, very intentional about understanding your experience
mhm.
and what
Yeah.
that can be used for. So I'm super
Mhm,
curious from you
mhm,
about how you speak to your kids and how you guide them
mhm.
when it comes to the importance of forgiveness in life and how that might differ from your experience of having received that from, say, your elders and parents and people around you.
We had to deal with girl on girl drama and boy on girl drama.
Mm.
And with the girl on girl drama, this little girl was attacking my daughter's appearance and her character. And I said, a lot of the times when people do that, it's because what they're seeing in you is missing in them. And so you can tell them to back off and that you're not interested in a conversation, or you can help them heal. It's up to you.
Mm.
And help them get that whatever they're battling off their chest. But I advise them not to hold on to that and not to take it personally. Um, yeah, and trying not to go into mama bear mode, right? And with the boy on girl one, this little boy kept pushing my daughter down, and people were trying to sell her on that narrative that, oh, he likes you, so that's why he hurts
Oh.
you. And I'm like, you need to
Mm.
stop that right now, because love does not equal disrespect. And
Yes.
so I want you to really understand that that's not what you're going to accept growing up. Or how did I phrase it? Just more in the sense of that you need to own yourself and you need to speak up and say, please don't touch me. Please stay away from me. Talk to an adult. And I praise them as well for being able to speak up, because a lot of the times they will internalize it. And so it, it was just, yeah, like just giving them a voice and understanding how to use their voice to stop the abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And,
Mhm.
I really commend you because I see that in moments when you easily could hit the easy button, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's so
Yeah.
important, because
Mhm.
it's almost like, if we go with the one that you shared there around, okay, well,
Mhm.
take the what he's communicating by pushing you down is that he likes you. Well, hang
Yeah.
on. Like, are we expecting when she turns 18 or whatever
Yeah.
that she's just
To
supposed to have
accept
this
abuse.
this
Mhm.
download of, oh, that wasn't actually love, but love is actually this, and this is how it should look. Like, what are we doing? Like, if many of us think back to, like, what are the things that we still remember? What are the principles we hold on to in life? There's a very
Mhm.
short, specific window that most of us
Mhm.
absorb all of this and then use that for the next 70, 80, 90 years. So,
Mhm.
I really commend you for having that foresight and not
Mhm.
just, keep repeating a lot of the pitfalls I often see happen.
Mhm.
So I think that's really, really important. So thank you for doing that. I think that's making huge impact.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And I grew up with the notion that love is a battlefield, and that, the deeper the wounds, the greater the love.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
No, no,
no.
it's not.
I,
It's not
no.
supposed to be that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad we're here now to have these
Mhm.
different conversations and to,
Mhm.
make a different option clear
Mhm.
for people so that they can also choose that. And, I know we
Mhm.
are winding down towards the end. Can you believe it's almost been an
Yeah.
hour that we've
It's
been
been an
talking?
hour. Oh my. Yeah.
Right? This is
Yeah.
tremendous.
Yeah.
I do have a couple, just to close us out here, and
Yeah.
one of them is I want to ask you,
Mhm.
whether from your own learning or perhaps, having been on the receiving end of it, right?
Mhm.
When we're approaching forgiveness, right? Some of us, we literally could be those first people within our entire family
Mhm.
that is trying, right? They're
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't know how to do this thing, but I
Mhm.
want to try.
Mhm.
What are some common mistakes, if you will, that you see
Mhm.
people make when they're trying to approach forgiveness that might actually just create a little bit more work for us moving forward? Do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah. We hold on to that mistake, and we don't remember that we are human, and that this one's hard for me.
Take time.
To not let that mistake define you
Mhm.
or the other person. Um, you have to sit with yourself, and you have to have the courage to sit with yourself, to work through this and understand certain things like attention versus intention.
Mhm. I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And reframe,
You know,
sorry, and reframing,
yes.
back to the reframing thing, where it's not, why is this happening to you, it's why is it
Yeah.
happening for you.
Gotcha. No,
Mhm.
that's wonderful, and I appreciate you sharing that. For just as we do try to be as useful as
Mhm.
possible in these conversations, do you
Mhm.
have any maybe books or videos or perhaps movies that you
Mhm.
watched that really helped you to connect more with, perhaps what you needed to do when it came to forgiveness and even forgiveness of yourself? Like any resources
Mhm.
that you perhaps you would direct our listeners to that you think might create some difference?
Oh, not that I can think of off the top of my head,
Okay.
but there are people such as Suki, your wife, who was really instrumental in helping me getting through my marriage, and then working with a therapist to understand the cognitive side of things, and then just just exploring who you like and who
Mm,
speaks something that resonates to you. Because I think earlier in the summer I did a whole social media cleanse where I was so overwhelmed with people talking about narcissism and talking
mm,
about certain subjects and like, this is how you land a man and this is how you keep a man and this is it was right. It's like they're so vague, like they weren't actually giving me information. And so like really combing through these resources and finding people that resonate with you is going to help. I don't know if we can attach links later on to the
Yeah.
page. Yeah,
Yeah, we can come
of some
back and
people
edit
that.
that and add some stuff
Mhm.
or add them into the comments, and
Yeah.
for those listening as well, if you yourself have been in this position of trying to
Mhm.
understand forgiveness and where do I start, or maybe you're trying to
Yeah.
just take your ability to forgive to the next level, by all means drop that in our comments so that more people can
Mhm.
connect with these resources
Yeah.
because that's what it's really all about, right? We're trying to
Yeah.
make sure that that connection can happen. And
Mhm.
I appreciate the vulnerability in everything you shared there, Nalini. And
Thank
to just to add one point on that because I found myself also I struggled with this.
you. Mhm.
I wasn't sure why would I go, for example, to a therapist over a
Mhm.
psychotherapist? And then
Mhm.
why might a physiotherapist be essential for me? And why might I also maybe need a little Reiki? How could that benefit me? Right? So I think
Mhm.
having that space or at least giving ourselves permission
Mhm.
to be curious and actually,
Yeah.
hey, ChatGPT, instead of like, oh my God, what is my animal sign for most Thursdays? If it's purple, what does that mean? Like, if we do a
Yeah.
little bit more of an effective rabbit hole dive, right,
Yeah.
to maybe
Yeah.
understand some of those things, I think that
Mhm.
that might actually take us a little bit further so we can understand,
Mhm.
okay, not everyone needs perhaps a traditional therapist, right? Maybe what I'm going through right now requires more of this, less of that. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes with this, because we aren't all that open with it, because it is
Mhm.
still kind of new to us, depending on what communities we come from and all that kind of stuff. We don't know.
Mhm.
And we might just take other people's opinions or experiences, all of which are so many factors, whether they're sponsorships,
Mhm.
promotions, just
Yeah.
a general distaste for the field. We don't know what went into that opinion, right?
Yeah.
So we really need to explore this for ourselves because it's such a unique thing. And Nalini, you could give me the 10 people who have worked for you, and
Mhm.
those 10 people could be the worst
The worst.
activators for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the
Mhm.
bottom line is that's the whole point. That's why there are so many of us, right?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
like all of us can coexist, and there's a reason for all of
Mhm.
us being here, right? We're not all going
Mhm.
to be the right messenger for the
No.
message, right? That's
No.
the truth,
Yeah.
right? But we have to be curious and actively seek to receive
Mhm.
these messages, right? And then the right messenger will, in some way, shape, or form, connect with us, right? So,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think that I've gotten so much from this. I think I've
Yeah.
really gotten to know
Myself as well.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten to
Yeah.
know you
Thank
deeper
you for
than
this.
you're
Mhm.
welcome. And for those who are listening and want to support you and learn more about what it
Mhm.
is that you're doing and bringing to the world, I want to give you this opportunity now to share with them how they can connect with you, what the best way to do that is, and maybe
Mhm.
if you're open to it, sharing with them, what they can look forward to from you in
Mhm.
2026 so that they're really locked in and showing love the way you want
Mhm. Oh gosh, I don't even know what my 2026 is going to look like at this
it.
point.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Other than my Guyana trip. No, I don't know. Just I'm in build mode right now, and yeah, I'm blocking out everything else really,
Okay.
and really focusing on myself. The sleep part for sure. Um, just my health overall, my mental health, my physical health. What I want to see happen. Um, hmm. What else? I guess everyone can follow me on Instagram at Nelly D Mahadio. My jewelry, actually, can you
Wonderful
see
jewelry. I've had so many items from this collection and I love them
it?
all.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of hamsas and a lot of evil eyes, and I've been listening to a few people who were talking about the evil eye and thinking that maybe it's ourself that's giving ourselves the evil eye. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not other people.
Hmm.
So I'm going to sit with that one for a little bit,
Okay.
and see how that plays out. And yes, it's a very popular item, but why is it popular? What's the origin of it? It is a pretty universal symbol.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's my jewelry is sassy chic. SHEEK. Um, yeah, and you can read my work in Two Times Removed, Volume 2 and Volume 3. Uh, yeah, and I don't know what else is happening after
Okay.
that.
No,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And I think that's part of the excitement too, right? We don't need to know the next 10 steps, right? We can be present and
Mhm.
enjoy what we're doing right in this moment. And I think you really
Yeah.
helped to hammer home that point. throughout this
That's
conversation. So,
that's actually
yeah.
been a big part of why I'm slowing down now, because when I was going through my divorce, I thought like I had to do so many things and I had to prove that I was not going to be this chronically dissatisfied brown woman who just accepts life. Like I wanted to go out there and show people I can do things, and I did. And now I'm just tired. Now I'm just like,
You know
why?
what?
Why did I
I
do that? Why was I was I proving it to myself that I can do things,
Yeah,
or was I proving it to other people? And it's a bit of both. And now is the time for me to relax
yeah,
and think
I love
about
that.
what the next steps are. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
so deserve that. And for those who you might not know the date we're recording, but this is
Mhm,
December 5th, 2025, and where I am,
mhm,
it's 10:12 a.m. Okay. Now
mhm.
I share this with you because I think for some people this will be the first time that they've ever heard a brown woman openly admit that she's tired,
Yeah.
and I think that's important.
Thank you. That's a whole other podcast, Josh.
That is, and I look forward to
Yeah.
part two with you, Nelly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So to everyone who's tuned in, we really, really appreciate you. And, we would
Mhm.
love to know what you learned and what you loved about this conversation. It's all
Yeah.
about building on our experiences and all of us just being open, because when we're open, we can really understand what's in front of us and then we can do something with it, right? We can ensure that our future does look different from our present and perhaps our past. And that is us taking our power back, right? And really understanding how much power we do have to steer our lineage in a different direction than perhaps it's gone. So, thank you
Yeah.
once again, everyone, for supporting the Umana Yana podcast. I do hope
Thank
that you
you.
hit that follow button on
Mhm.
Nalini's accounts. She has wonderful personal content as well as all of her business stuff and more great things definitely on the way. So, Nalini, thank you once again for today, and I
No,
look forward to the
thank
next one.
you. Yeah. Take care.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.